Present, Board Member Kenyon and Board Member Todd. We can move on to 1.2, the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Cirincione, would you please do that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agenda item 1.3, approval of the regular agenda form.
I make a motion to approve the irregular agenda form consistent with Board Policy 1-302 and temporarily suspend governing board policy with which this agenda may be inconsistent.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. Ms. Zimmerman,
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione,
Aye.
and I'm also an aye. Will show that pass 3-0. Moving on to administrative reports. Agenda item 2.1, preschool 5-star quality first rating recognition. Dr. Doozy.
Yes, thank you, President Schmidt, board members. Our guest here, we'd like to take a moment and celebrate your great accomplishment. We're thrilled to celebrate this incredible achievement for Liberty Elementary School District for our preschool program that is housed at Loretta Zumbro Elementary School, which they have earned a 5-star quality rating. Quality first rating, excuse me. This is the highest possible rating that can be earned in an early childhood program in the state of Arizona. Quality First is Arizona's statewide quality improvement and rating system for early childhood education. It evaluates preschool programs using a nationally recognized assessment tools. Programs are carefully reviewed, as ours was, in their classroom environments, teacher-child interactions, instructional quality, and program practices that support young children's development. A 5-star rating represents the highest level of excellence, indicating the program goes above and beyond basic health and safety standards and demonstrates exceptional early learning practices. Programs at this level provide nurturing, engaging environments where children develop language, social and emotional, and cognitive skills they need for lifelong success. This prestigious designation reflects years of dedication, collaboration, and a deep commitment to high-quality early childhood education. It is a testament to the outstanding educators and paraprofessionals who work each day to create these meaningful learning experiences for our students. The dedication, passion, and commitment of excellence with Liberty's youngest learners are supported and inspired and prepared for future success. We would like to take a moment this evening and recognize those of this incredible team that earned this amazing award to acknowledge them of these accomplishments. So I'm going to call your name. If you'd please come on up to the front, and then we are going to take a photo. Mr. Namiski, I will be calling you up at the end to say a few words at the podium. So we'll start with Tara Cook, our preschool coordinator. That's good. And you all have very beautiful names, so I apologize if I do not pronounce them correctly. Definitely later on, if I see you in the field, when I see you in the field, definitely let me know if I don't say your beautiful name right. Our teachers, Anna Young, Nicole Hampton, Erica Lilienthal, how did I do, Erica? Did I okay? Okay. Okay. Rena Malakowski. Sydney Lasicto. Probably have to help me with that one. And Marissa Neep. And before I go on to our paraprofessionals, is there any other educator or teacher that I may have missed? I want to make sure I have a complete list. Okay, perfect. All right, our paraprofessionals, that their work is critical to the success of our program. So let's recognize them. Christy Bearden. Rebecca Granados. Raquel Dodge. Patrice Davis. Gabriela Noriga. Audrey Rodriguez. Brenda Flores. Jessica Moran. Laura Vanter. Dana Adams. Sabina Valdez. Zamora Davis Wynn. Okay, sorry, let me say it correctly. How do you say it? How do you say it? Zamaria. Okay, thank you. Beautiful name. Brittany Maitland and Robin Sherbin. And then Mr. Nowinski, if you'll come up to the podium and let's recognize Mr. Nowinski as well as the leader of that campus and our preschool program.
Members of the board, Dr. Doozy, if we could also bring up Stacy Gardner. She is pivotal to the success of preschool. She probably will kill me tomorrow.
Thank you, Thank you very much. I did not have you on my list, but please know that we sincerely appreciate your hard work.
Stacy is the lifeblood of our school and our preschool program. What you see before you is tremendous team. I had the privilege of getting really to know Tara about a year and a half ago. When I knew I was going to come over to take over Zumbro and start it up, I came over to Liberty and met with Tara, met her team, met her paras, and most importantly, met the kids. And when they told me preschool was coming, I said, oh, goodness gracious, I don't know if I can handle that. I've been a middle school, high school teacher all my life. But when those kids on that playground, you remember, they came up, they started running up, they started grabbing my leg, they started giving me high five. I fell in love right away. And I can tell you with the utmost of sincerity, preschool has a special place in my heart now. And the people that you see in front of you are unbelievably talented and wonderful human beings and educators. So this honor for them, this 5-star honor for them is well-deserved and well-warranted. I'm grateful that you have accepted me as well. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome.
All right, so we're going to pause just for a minute and take some pictures with our governing board members, myself, and we also have cookies and water in the back for all to enjoy.
Dr. Doozy, I'm adding one more to the list. I apologize, but Lee Harrison is one of our psychologists, and she is on the front lines of all of the IEPs for our preschool students. And without her, there would be no 5-star rating. So I want to make sure she's included as well. Okay, one more. We just hired, just recently, we have a new preschool itinerant. The itinerant goes in and delivers resource minutes to the students, and that is Dodonda Maggot. So we want to make sure that we recognize her as well.
So ask Sharon, make sure.
Ms. Schmidt, is it okay if we say something?
Okay.
I just personally wanted to recognize and say thank you. As a previous preschool parent myself, I know the hard work and the dedication that these teachers and paraprofessionals and Ms. Cook, who really took on this program and was really committed to getting this 5-star rating. And I think it's just really a testament to how much you believed in your team and really worked hard to achieve that. So I just want to say thank you personally, and having kind of seen the behind the scenes. And I think it's really incredible because, you know, we have an inclusive preschool here. And to get that 5-star rating while having that inclusive preschool and really meeting the needs of each of our learners and giving them the opportunity to be a part of, you know, with their regular ed peers as well, was something that was very, very important to me as a parent, as a preschool parent. And so I'm just grateful for all the work that all of you do. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you again. Also, thank you for being willing to come up here and stand in front of everybody and take a couple pictures. I know not everybody wanted to, but I don't want to either, so I'm glad that you did as well. So thank you. Remember, there's water and cookies in back for everyone. Feel free. Also, feel free to not stick around for the rest of the meeting. If you don't want to, don't feel like you have to. Sorry. It's okay. All right, but we will move on to agenda item 2.2, the superintendent update. Dr. Doozy. I'm sorry, 1 second. I would like to acknowledge that board member Todd is now present. So can we note that? Okay. Got it. Thank you, Ms. Camerata. And you're always more on top of things than I am. All right, now we will move on to 2.2, the superintendent update.
Thank you, Board President Schmidt and board members and our community that may or may not be staying a little bit longer. So I do want to provide an update. So as we begin the 2026-2027 school year, I'm incredibly grateful for the work the Liberty team has put in and the positive energy that I've already experienced across our district. This month has been filled with many firsts for me as a superintendent, but more importantly, it's been filled with examples of our employees, our families, our students, and our community partners working together to move Liberty forward. As I reflect on these first few weeks, I can't even believe it's been already a week. We're already in the second week. But I continue to see our strategic plan come to life, not simply as goals on a paper, but through the daily actions of our people. So when I talk about priority 1, which is our instructional services, I wanted to give an update in that area. We successfully welcomed our students back to this school year. I had the opportunity to visit all our campuses, walk classrooms, connect with leaders, and really be able to witness firsthand the work our employees are putting in to create a strong learning environment for our students. From welcoming our new teachers and celebrating the return of our entire staff, there was truly, genuinely a sense of excitement, purpose, and commitment across Liberty. Our students truly illuminated in the light created by our employees who worked so hard to make our first days, our first week, a success. We are also exploring opportunities under that instructional services goals and priorities set by the board to provide opportunities to expand learning through our current programming. This month, we continued conversations with the Buckeye Union High School District regarding a potential partnership that would provide coding curriculum for 4 of our schools. As well as U-Science, which is a career exploration platform for our 8th grade students that will really give us some great information about our kids and some great next action steps that we can do to increase those opportunities. An IGA associated with this partnership will be brought forward to the governing board for review and consideration very soon. This work directly supports the board's priority to increase those student opportunities and engage while integrating technology and those real-world experiences for our kids. Priority 2, under employee excellence, I'd also like to give an update. We begin this year fully staffed with principals, assistant principals, and instructional coaches, and administrative cabinet. Very exciting. I feel like I want to cheer right now for that, but I have also begun individual meetings with our cabinet members to strengthen communication, clarify expectations, and ensure our leadership structures are in support to really serve our schools and our departments effectively. I've also spent additional time with our Ed Services team to establish roles and responsibilities and norms, as this is now also a fully staffed department for the first time in a very long time. So I'm really helping them collaborate and become a cohesive team, and it's been exciting work to see. Building strong teams is a foundation to our success as a district, and our strategic plan does call upon Liberty to attract, retain, recruit, and develop high-quality employees no matter what role they might serve in our district, and create environments where we all can learn at high levels, including our kids. As we move forward, we'll continue to investing in our people and intentionally growing leaders that grow leaders throughout our organization. So we really feel that we have some great structures in place, and I definitely wanted to give that update to the board and the community. Priority 3, under effective systems, safety, and resources, our leadership team has begun reviewing Liberty's 5-year capital plan, aligning our work with our technology and curriculum needs, as well as our maintenance and operation needs. Rather than reviewing these areas independently, we're working toward a more comprehensive approach and long-range planning and resource allocation. Our initial focus includes reviewing the approximately $1.5 million remaining from the bond and identify clear next steps and responsible use for these resources. This work directly supports the board's commitment to fiscal responsibility, effective operations, technology, infrastructure, and responsible stewardship of taxpayer resources. Under priority 4, family and community engagement. One of the most meaningful parts of my work this month has actually been meeting directly with our Liberty families. Over the past several weeks, I've had the opportunity to sit alongside families, staff members to listen, problem solve, and identify ways to support individual students. I'm grateful for these conversations, resulting in very positive outcomes, and demonstrated what is possible when families and schools approach challenges together as partners. Our community engagement is also expanding beyond our schools. I participated and continue to participate in our superintendent collaborative network across Arizona. I also attended both the Buckeye Rotary and the Buckeye Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and I have taken steps toward the district membership to both organizations, which we have not been part of for a little time. So it'll be good to reconnect with those community partners, as well as consider the next partners that we're going to engage with. These relationships are very important for our strategic plan because it specifically calls Liberty to maximize our community and our civic partnerships, strengthen our family engagement through these partnerships, and ensure a positive experience for all. And then a priority 5, which is our marketing and communication. Our opening of the school year provided many opportunities to tell Liberty's story, from welcoming our newest educators to celebrating returning employees, students, and families. We are intentionally highlighting the people and the moments that demonstrate what makes Liberty special. I will share that we had a very great kickoff with our staff, and what stole the show was a student named Matt from Las Brisas. And so I just wanted to recognize him for a moment. He provided such energy and motivation and really reminded us all of our why. And I just wanted to acknowledge him and celebrate him because he just stole the show and even did splits on the stage. It was pretty amazing. Our strategic plan calls for clear and consistent messaging that celebrates these kind of accomplishments for our kids, our schools, our employees, and our programs while strengthening that engagement. This will remain an important focus as we work to build trust, strengthen the relationships we have amongst the organization as well as the community, and ensure our community sees and understands the great work that's happening at Liberty. Moving forward, while August represents the beginning of a new school year, it also represents the beginning of a new chapter of our work together. So I'm encouraged by what I've seen during these first few weeks, the commitment of our employees, the partnership of our families, and the enthusiasm of our students, and the willingness of the community to be eager to commit and engage with us. Our strategic plan provides our direction, but our people bring that plan to life. So I want to thank the people, including our governing board. As our superintendent, I remain committed to listening and learning and being present in our schools, strengthening our systems, ensuring that our decisions remain centered on what's best for students. Through SEEDS, which is my leadership philosophy to serve, embrace, empower, develop, and steer, we will continue to grow leaders that grow leaders across our organization. I'm grateful to our governing board. Thank you very much for your continued leadership and support, and I look forward to continuing our monthly updates here to share our progress, our challenges, and our celebrations throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Doozy. Agenda item 2.3, monthly budget report update. Ms. Purcell, I don't know if you have comments or if there are questions from board members.
I am open to any questions.
Ms. Schmidt.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I appreciate that you put at the bottom these kind of like new little tallies. But could you explain what you mean by transferable reservices?
Okay. Yes, I was trying to find a way to share, right? Transparency with not only for our governing board. Sorry, good evening, governing board. I'm sorry. I'm just excited about this report. I wanted to show what funds were available where we can interchangeably put like salaries between each other because a lot of funds are restricted and we're not able to do that. So that's one amount. That would be most likely for one-time purchases. And then the column to the right, sustainable. I know I've worked with Mr. Hegarty. He had done some work prior for me arriving, showing a trend of ongoing expenses. So that's something we have to keep in mind, right? Not to add any ongoing expenses. So those funds there are what are not committed to ongoing expenses. So slowly we'll be able to start showing that the reserves getting more and more. Well, I'm going to try to increase those reserves. So I just want to give you both scenarios. We actually have one-time money, the 3 million, but yet to add sustainability, those are different amounts. And if you see in Fund 1, we show 148. That's because our we're trying to get that 700 back to capital where it really should be.
Okay.
So I took that off
Okay.
off the top.
Okay.
I mean, that's strategy, right? To put it back into capital and try to go off of that. So
Okay, so that was like my question is like, okay, that was a big shift and but I appreciate that because, you know, I've been very vocal that
Mhm.
it is very important to me that we, you know, as we run out of bond money that we're going to need those capital funds for our aging schools. So I think it's really important and Mr. Haggerty pointed out about interest and I'm not going to try to explain it because I don't understand it, but anyway, it belongs in the capital fund. It doesn't belong in M&O. So is this something that you'll keep going with then at the bottom to help us see?
right. Yeah, I
Okay.
was trying to think of a mechanism to, something easy to show you.
Yeah.
And I feel okay with these certain funds, These are funds that are not as restricted and we're allowed to use interchangeable, I guess. For salaries, if we add to rainy day, like we really should be preparing for that. So that's what I'm
Right.
trying to do to show you guys transparency and for our community.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sorry. Any other questions about the budget? Okay, then thank you, Ms. Purcell. We can move on to item 3.1, governing board updates. Ms. Zimmerman, would you like to start?
Sure. First, I just want to say kind of a welcome back to our teachers and our staff. Thank you for all the work that you have done to prepare to welcome our students. I know at the beginning of the year it's exciting, but it's also a lot of work. And so appreciate the time that you give to our students. But also welcome back to our families because, you entrust us with your most precious things every single day and certainly not something I don't think anybody takes lightly. So thank you. I also wanted to take the opportunity to do some celebrations from Illuminate last year. I've always said it's important to me that we, highlight our staff when we're able to, and to celebrate the hard work and the things that they were able to accomplish. So in ELA last year, Westar had 63% of all of their students proficient, which is a great number. I know Ms. Hamburg has been working really hard and they had their 7th grade at 70% proficient and 8th grade at 75% proficient. And I feel like if you know junior high, it's, I would say, even harder to move the needle. And so the fact that her and her staff were able to do that is just such a huge accomplishment. At Estrella in ELA, in fourth grade, they had 87% proficient, which is a great number as well. At Freedom, the students that went from 6th to 7th, so the 6th graders in 2024-25, and then they became 7th graders in 25-26, they increased their proficiency 31 percentage points. So they were able to make a significant change. Those 7th grade teachers really made a significant change. At LBA, the 3rd graders that then moved into 4th grade last year, they had an 18% increase in their proficiency. At Liberty, also from 3rd to 4th grade, they had a 39% increase in their proficiency. So again, those teachers are really moving the needle in terms of growth, which is awesome. At Rainbow Valley, from 5th to 6th grade, they had a 23% increase in proficiency. So again, you know, you're seeing teacher specific grade levels being able to move the needle, and that is always awesome to see. In math, at LBA, in 4th grade, they had an 81% proficiency. So 81% of their students in math were proficient in Illuminate. And then the 2nd graders that went into 3rd grade, they increased their proficiency by 25%. Westar had 76% of their 3rd graders proficient in math. And then Blue Horizons, their 5th to 6th, they increased their proficiency by 20 percentage points. So again, just a lot of growth. And although I didn't name the specific teachers, I just want to recognize that, you know, they put in an incredible amount of work, as well as our principals and assistant principals and instructional coaches, to make these gains. And so I just want to, you know, I want to recognize them and thank them for their hard work. So, and that's all I have.
Mr. Cirincione?
I just want to welcome everybody back also. I know firsthand the hard work that goes into getting the school up and running from summer to the first 2 weeks. So I want to thank everybody from the support staff to the teachers to administration for making it so easy for our students to get back in there and making it really successful. So thank you and welcome back.
Mr. Todd, do you have an update?
I just echo what previously been said. Welcome back to everybody. I do know that a lot of teachers showed up on the Friday that we kind of had some discussion at the last meeting for the calendar, and I really appreciate them showing up, getting their classrooms ready. Welcome to everybody, and look forward to a great year.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to echo what everyone else said and welcome everybody back. I had the pleasure of joining the staff kickoff over at Estrella Foothills, and also getting to see the awesome student from LBA who had me laughing the entire time. He is quite the character. And I got to do the fun part of giving out the gift cards that people want. And so that was my only responsibility. I think that was the best part of the day. But it was a great time. So much excitement in the room, so much energy in the room that morning. And everybody was excited. I always love seeing all the shirts from each school and like the dancing on the stage and trying to outdo everybody. It was a great time. So thanks for letting me join you all, even though I'm not technically staff. It was a nice break from my own regular morning. And just wanted to say I've really enjoyed seeing all the back to school photos that have been posted from all the schools on social media. You guys are doing a really great job of really promoting the schools and everything that's happening there. And that's how the community sees what's happening at the school, because they're not there with you every day. So if I get to see it and I'm not there, that's how they're seeing it. So keep that up. I mean, it's how we keep people engaged and make them want to come see all the great things that are happening at the schools and letting the communities know. So that is all for our board updates. We can move on to public comment, call to the public. Do we have any public? We have no calls from the public tonight. All right. Well, we can move on to the consent agenda and item 5.1, approval of consent agenda.
Ms. Schmidt,
Yes.
I'd like to pull 5.5, 5.8, and 5.9.
All right. Anything else? Okay.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 5.5, 5.8, and 5.9.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We can take a vote. Member Todd,
Aye.
Member Zimmerman,
Aye.
Member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that passed 4-0. And we can move on to 5.5, approval of the Special Education Services Agreement with STEER. Dr. Avila and Ms. Zimmerman, you requested, so you can go ahead.
Okay. I had quite a few questions and some concerns about this particular contract. So just so that, the public is aware, this is for the level C placement of students that will be at on our campus, on Loretta Zumbro's campus. But so I guess we'll just start with section 1.1. The concern I have here is that this agreement automatically renews unless we give 60 days notice. And so I just think to protect ourselves, there's been a lot of discussion on this board about protecting ourselves in contracts. And I don't foresee, we have established leadership in place now, but, there have been things that have fallen through the cracks before where we've gotten ourselves into a situation. And so I would feel much more comfortable if we could just have a 1-year contract.
Madam President, members of the governing board, if you look at the attached, we revised the contract and attached it. And 1.1 now reads, this agreement may renew for additional successive 1-year terms by written and signed agreement of both parties. So that was revised.
Okay, but it still says unless either party provides written notice to the other party of its election to terminate this agreement at least 60 days prior to the expiration of the then current term or subject to the termination provisions. So why can't we just take that second part out?
Madam President, may we call Miss Lori Bird? She's here with us to the podium to answer these specific questions.
Yes, please.
Tall.
Good evening, President Smith, members of the governing board. I was involved in the negotiation and drafting of this contract, so hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions. I know that I was aware of your concerns and I helped the district provide you some responses as part of your preparation for this board meeting. The reason that we cannot remove that provision about the 60-day termination is that it provides stability for both the STEER and the district when it comes to provision of services for students. That doesn't mean, however, if there is a material breach of the contract or a health and safety concern, that the contract couldn't immediately be terminated. And as the provision is written currently, it requires both parties to agree every year to continue, as well as the approval of the Liberty Governing Board on a yearly basis.
Okay, two things. We can't just get out of the contract immediately. Like it specifically says we have to give them 60 days to fix a breach. So I don't think, at least unless that's the contract that I read. But I understand that it says that the agreement of both parties and the Liberty Governing Board approval. However, still having it in the contract that says we have to give 60 days notice, they're still going to hold us to that. And I do understand, that STEER wants to protect themselves, right? Because they want to be able to give their employees notice and things like that if they're not going to be servicing our students again next year. So I understand that, but I guess I have a hard time saying, well, it can't be done because we just did an IGA that says it's a yearly contract. We
But-
don't,
But this is a yearly contract. So I think I'm misunderstanding. I think your concern isn't the overall term of the contract, if I'm hearing you correctly. It's that what is the out, so to speak, for the district if things aren't working. I do want to caution you that if you have we can revoke this contract for any reason, you're leaving students without services. And the provisions are going to have to be mutual, which means that and 60 days is fairly reasonable for someone providing services to special education students. And so I'm hesitant to advise the district that there aren't any provisions for cancellation and that they're not reasonable to both parties, because neither do we want Steer to up and leave with no notice and leave students without services any more than the district would want to cancel for absolutely no reason as well. And I will tell you, if there's a health and safety concern, legally, you most certainly could address that concern and that issue within the boundaries of that contract. So is your concern that you want the contract more on a trial basis for less than a year, or you want to strengthen the ability for you to get out of the contract, which is probably problematic? This time period is not unusual in a contract for services for special education.
no, I think the term of 1 year is fine.
Okay.
I'm not debating that.
Okay.
I don't like that the provision of if we don't want to renew it for next year, we have to give the notice.
No, that's not true. Those two things don't go together. At the end of 1 year, the contract is terminated unless both parties, both you and Steer,
Mhm.
don't, either one of you say, you know what, a year was enough, we're all moving on. The contract term is over and it's terminated. So the 60 days refers to within that year period. If something happens, then you have to follow the termination provisions. So let's say in January, for whatever reason, there's a breach of this contract. You may terminate the contract, giving them that 60-day cure notification to cure the breach and terminate the contract. That's what that provision means.
Okay. I hear you, but it says to terminate this agreement at least 60 days prior to the expiration of the then current term.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm kind of confused now too.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So I understand what you're saying. Like if we want to terminate in the middle of the year, but the part where it says that Ms. Zimmerman just spoke about the current to the expiration of the then current term. So
Uh-huh.
those are kind of contradictory because you're saying at any point at 60 days, but this is saying we have to do it 60 days before the end of the term.
No, that isn't what it's saying.
The first line says the agreement is from July 1st, 2026, and unless terminated earlier as provided herein, so the rest of it down at the bottom where it says you can do it within 60 days, it expires on June 30th, 2027. So
Correct.
that's it. It's July 1st to June 30th. Then it may renew if agreed by both parties and the board. And then unless the parties provide written notice, that's the within the year to end it early. Otherwise, it ends on
That's
June
correct.
30th, 2027.
That is the
No-
correct reading of that provision.
But
But that is what it says.
But then
It's just
what's-
kind of awkward,
then what's
I feel
this
like.
days prior, right here? Written notice
Mhm.
to other party of its election to terminate this agreement at least 60 days prior to the expiration of the then current term. So it's saying it has to be within at least 60 days
If
of June 30th.
if you're trying to end it early, if it's already past the 60 days, then you can't. I would read that as in if we're at day 45 before the end of the agreement, there's 45 days left before June 30th. It's too late to end it. So now you're stuck for the next 45 days, but it still ends on June 30th, no matter what, unless we agree to extend it, or the board and the district. But if you wanted to end it in February, you would have to give them 60 days notice to February 1st to end it on February 1st.
But 60 days prior to the expiration of the current, right? I understand what you're saying.
No,
but
it's
I
not.
don't-
So here's, I think, where the disconnect is in the way that it's drafted and what's being confusing. We can take out mentioning, because a contract has to be read as a whole, right? So there are other provisions addressing specifically termination of the contract. If you would be more comfortable, certainly if Steer agrees, we can leave the term as the term and the other provisions as the other provisions. They are internally consistent, but if it's causing confusion, we can leave the term as the term for a year. And then you could just go with the cancellation provisions that are also embodied in the contract and just leave it at that. So the term would run from whenever the contract is executed. July 1st is really a placeholder, but until June 30th, 2027, you always have to have cancellation provisions or termination provisions in a contract, but those are in a separate area of the contract. And I read that as consistent, but I understand the confusion. And so we could leave those two provisions completely separate if you prefer.
Madam President, if I may. I just want to be clear. Like, I don't have a problem with the 60 days, like, because it protects us also. I'm confused about where it keeps saying towards the end of the 60 days to the term.
You would like the provisions to be separated.
I think that could be helpful.
Please.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm like looking at my notes and different things. Okay.
Taking notes so
Okay.
that I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So under 2.2,
hmm
I am looking at the end. So this is talking about your, providing staff and, fully certified special education teachers.
Mhm.
And then at the end, it says, Steer shall notify Liberty within 5 business days if a classroom will be staffed by a long-term permanent substitute teacher.
Yes.
Okay. So what recourse does the district have to, like, how long can they keep a substitute in there? Because part of this contract says that they have to provide, fully certified special education teachers, and a substitute can't deliver minutes. So
Actually, that's not true, but go ahead.
a substitute can provide minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Under current interpretation of Arizona statute and past ADE guidance, a substitute teacher who's not, let's say, a sub could be credentialed, but a non-credentialed sub could provide service minutes to a student as long as the service minutes were overseen by a certified teacher and as long as a certified teacher supervised and attended the IEP meeting for that student. So it's not a violation of law to have a sub in the classroom currently. And we do it in Gen Ed all the time.
Okay, well, as a parent, that is news to me and quite concerning, to be perfectly honest with you, but we'll keep going. So basically, there's no recourse. We just have to, because we have to be okay if they are just going to provide a permanent sub and then, we don't have a qualified teacher, even though that's what the contract says.
You don't have to be okay with it. You could provide a qualified teacher if you had one, but just like the situation the district often gets in, there isn't a certified teacher, let's say, to cover a classroom for a maternity leave, or there isn't a qualified teacher to cover an unexpected illness or treatment that might last longer than, I'm trying to think what a long-term sub is, longer than, and I don't know exactly what but so what it does is it enables them to do the same thing the district does. If they cannot find a certified teacher, and currently they have certified teachers staffing, they're prepared to staff the classrooms. That's what they have to go with, and they have to make reasonable efforts. If they make no effort and just staff all your classroom with subs, I think that's a material breach of the contract because, again, you have to read the rest of 2.2.
Right. So that, that's my question is what is our recourse? Is there something, because there are contracting agencies, right, that they could contract a teacher from if they aren't able to hire them. But is that the expectation?
The expectation is that they staff the classrooms with qualified, certified, background checked teachers in special education. It's only if they cannot find a teacher to do that, that they would staff that classroom with a long-term sub.
I guess my concern is that, we're paying a lot of money,
Mhm.
right, to employ this company. And so I just wish that the district has some recourse here, because I think this is a common problem. But if we were going to have a substitute staff the class, then we might as well not pay $215 a day for a student and just hire a substitute ourselves.
If they were going to put a sub in the class that wasn't a true sub, they just said, here's our classroom teacher for the entire year, they would be in breach of contract and you would have your termination rights available to you.
Okay. I'm just going to keep going. 2.5.
Mhm.
It's about administrative services. So it says STEER provides consultation from its administrator and teacher support team for the STEER classrooms at no additional cost to Liberty. What does consultation mean?
So they have members of their staff with different areas of expertise. So let's say there's a teacher in the classroom that needs some support, needs to come up with strategies for a student. You wouldn't pay extra for one of their administrative or staff that has specialized expertise to come in and provide that expertise in the classroom. If it's like I said, it's mostly teacher support, and it's actually laid out here. That includes case management, making sure tracking IEP dates, tracking what the teachers are doing in the classroom for any individual student, helping the teachers write the drafts for the IEPs. I mean, they can write the draft, but obviously the district has a role to play in the IEP development. They will send staff, not just classroom teachers, but administrative staff for intake meetings, or if a student needs to reintegrate back into either a classroom or reintegrate back into Gen Ed, they will provide support for that. They will coordinate with mental health agencies if needed for a specific student. That would be in consultation with the parent, the district, but they would facilitate that at no cost to you. And they would also provide intervention support.
So is there an administrator from STEER on campus every day?
No, there doesn't need to be, because they're supporting the classrooms on an as-needed basis. The administrator on your campus, the principal, so to speak, is the principal of the school. This is not a separate school. This is not a school within a school. These are classrooms in which students are members of their campus, but their IEPs require that they spend 60% or more of their day in a specialized setting. STEER is providing that specialized setting, and their staff Their administrative staff is supporting the classroom teachers. So they don't necessarily need to have an office on campus. They also run private day schools out in the community, and they may run other programs on other districts' campuses. I don't know. But they are not a principal or a superintendent or anything like that. They're merely what they're calling administrative or higher level staff to provide support to those classrooms at no cost to you.
Okay. You know, I share this with our staff, like that at no cost to me, like feels a little disingenuous personally because we are paying for the program, right? And that is part of the program. So this idea that it's like not an additional cost, well, it's embedded in the cost. So based on that information, I think that there needs to be somewhere in this contract that states that the principal of our school is like overseeing these students. They would be responsible for their discipline, it sounds like.
It's in there.
You know, it actually says STEER is going to implement this.
That provision's been changed. The provision you're looking at for student discipline, 2.11,
Uh-huh.
that provision has been revised to address your concerns.
Okay, well, I printed this afternoon. So is it been revised again?
No, I don't
Okay.
know which.
Okay.
I know that I know it's confusing because there were multiple copies kind of going back and forth to address different concerns. So you may have gotten not the most updated version. Would you like me to read the provision as it now stands?
No, when we get there, if it's okay, we'll just keep
Okay.
going so we don't confuse
Okay.
anybody. So 2.7 is about IEP services.
Mhm.
Sorry. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, 2.9
Mhm.
is about medication administration.
Yes.
So it says STEER will administer all student medication. Oh, I think this did change. Okay, that's fine. Sorry. Okay. 2.11.
Okay.
So this is about the disciplines. So it says halfway through, it says, they will implement integrated behavioral support such. STEER will follow the Liberty student conduct policies in formal discipline of students. STEER shall notify the Liberty campus administrator in writing if a student has engaged in conduct STEER staff reasonably believed to be the cause for an in-school or out-of-school suspension or expulsion recommendation. Any student conduct that would result in will be imposed by Liberty administration. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to be clear because I want it clear for our staff, for our parents. There was a lot of concern from parents about the program initially, and I just want us to be clear so that they feel like they have the supports and know who to go to when there is a concern.
I understand the concern historically, and I tried to address those concerns when I reviewed this contract. And then taking into consideration concerns of staff and board members, the language was revised as you just read there.
Okay. 3.2 is about transportation. It says Liberty shall provide transportation of its students to and from the STEER program. Could we just add that like as located on a Liberty campus? Because the way it reads, it feels like we're transporting them somewhere else, right? Because we'd be transporting our students regardless, right?
Yes, but there are some entities that run programs that actually do run the transportation piece as part of their services. This contract only applies to your specialized classrooms on campus. And so there's no place else to transport them but to this program. But I'm happy to add, will to the STEER Progress on the Liberty campus, but that's the only place this contract applies to.
Again, like if somebody's reading this, right, and there is another STEER program, like a private day, like again, it's just for clarity purposes.
Sure.
I just think,
And again, you have to read a contract as a whole. And so I am adding on a Liberty campus. And that will, if you happen to move the program to another campus, that's why I'm not naming a
Right.
specific program where it's on. But I'm happy to add on a Liberty campus. I don't think that'll be objectionable to STEER because obviously STEER, after your approval, has to agree to any changes we made. And I really would caution against any disruption in services for students.
okay. 5.3 says the parties agree that the tuition rate will be prorated based upon the student's start date with STEER. If a student is withdrawn from the program, Liberty's billing will be prorated for that month from the date of notification. So my question is, are we being billed prior, like for the prior month that the students attended or for like the future month, right? Are we being billed before?
Being billed in arrears because it's based on attendance. So if a student, and I believe you're paying in 10 monthly installments. And so if a student withdraws in the middle of the month, that $215 a day tuition for that student wouldn't be charged for that entire month. It would be charged for the days the student was in attendance. Both Liberty carries the reporting attendance requirements to ADE under ADM. STEER has to notify you if that student didn't show up, as according to however your gen ed teachers notify your attendance clerks of a student. If a parent withdraws or gets placed into the program midway through a billing cycle, then you're not charged for that student for the entire billing cycle, only the days that they were in attendance. Well, they can also charge for like one-off absences as well, just like you count that student for excused absences for ADM.
So my question is, if for August,
Yep.
are we paying for the month of August at the beginning of August or the beginning of September?
It's my understanding that you'll be paying it at the beginning of September.
Okay. So I guess, and maybe this is just, contract language, but for me, the pro rate is like, okay, if we're being charged a daily rate, wouldn't they just add up the number of days? Like if we're not being charged
per
a
student.
monthly rate, right?
It's per student though. So your
Right.
daily rate will fluctuate based on the number of students in your program. And so if a student's only in your program for part of the month, you're not going to be charged for that student for the entire month.
Right.
But you're not paying them a fixed fee every month. It depends on enrollment. So it's $215 a day for those days that the student was a part of that program.
Right. I understand. So that's why I don't understand why we're using this prorate language. And we don't have to dwell on it, but I just think if we're being charged a daily rate, and we know how many days, if we're paying after the fact, right? After the month, it should be easy to calculate. Okay, the student was here for 14 days. The student here was 13, whatever it is. You're not necessarily prorating it because it's just how many days they were there if you're paying after the
I think that this provision protects you and gives you recourse to keep the billing accountable because you are going to have students coming in and out of the program in theory. And so I think this provision protects you from being charged for those students. It just makes clear that if they enter the program on the 15th, they don't get charged for the whole daily rate, or if they exit the program. I think this provision actually protects the district.
Okay. 5.6 So this is talking about them charging for medical absences. If a student is absent for 10 consecutive days, Liberty will be notified pursuant to Section 2 of this agreement. Following receipt of notice by Liberty, STEER will hold the placement for such students up to 10 days, otherwise notified by the district. My question isn't Liberty in control of the placement of students and not STEER?
This goes to, again, back to your billing question, right? So if a student is absent unexcused for 10 consecutive days, the district would withdraw that student by Arizona law, or they'll claw back your ADM for that student. However, many times disagreements might arise, and the district's trying to resolve a disagreement with a parent, and the parent's chosen to not have that student attend school while that agreement's being resolved. By holding that seat open, that means that your capacity doesn't change in your program, because as soon as you relinquish that seat, you have to update your capacity for open enrollment, or you need to know that you have space in that program. And I don't know if the programs are going to be full, but they may be. You'll then have space in that program. So you're not going to fill that seat with another student until 10 days after they're withdrawn, because it's very common for a parent to withdraw and then re-enroll that student, and you want them to be able to go back to the programming in which they were in.
Okay, but shouldn't it say Liberty will hold the placement then? Because aren't we the ones placing the students in the program?
STEER is agreeing to provide a certain number of seats, and you don't want STEER to make capacity arguments. But I mean, if you don't want it in there, we can take it out. I don't.
I'm just, it's just a question. I'm just asking because I'm just trying to clarify, because it's just been my understanding that Liberty is the one placing students.
But STEER also gets to review their IEPs and determine whether or not that student is appropriate and can safely have their IEP implemented in their particular program. And if STEER, in consultation with the district, feels like the IEP cannot be delivered and FAPE cannot be given to the student, or that it's unsafe for the student to be there, then they can also ask that the student, we have to have an IEP meeting, but they can also ask that the student be another location of services be found for that student. But if the student doesn't show up for 10 consecutive days, they can't come and say, well, the student didn't show up. We want an IEP meeting. We're saying you have to wait and see how things play out for at least 10 days before you consider that student no longer eligible for and you don't want them to have to go back and say, hey, new seat. Now we have to have an IEP meeting. Now we have to redetermine in consultation with STEER staff whether that student is appropriate for the program. So again, this protects you. It's also, if it was a private day school, it's also a private day provision that 10 days notice has to be given before a student is exited, even from a private day.
Okay. Last thing I have is 6.2, which falls under section 6, which is the termination of the agreement. And so it says the breaching party shall have 60 days to cure the breach. And so my concern is that 60 days is a long time if something is happening with our students for either of us to cure that breach. That's a long time for things not to be correct for our students and for them to be without services. And so when I looked at the previous contract for the previous vendor we used, they had 30 days to cure a breach. And then the contract that we just approved for our level D, we only have 15 days to cure a breach. So for me personally, 60 days feels like a long time to put our students in a position to maybe not have what they need if it's not being adhered to by the contract. So I know you said earlier that that is typical, but when I compared other contracts,
It's also mutual, meaning Steer can't leave without 60 days opportunity for you as a district to cure a breach. And again, it provides stability. Certainly those timeframes can be negotiated. If you're uncomfortable with that, we can go back to Steer, but please also know that typically they are on par with each other. So you wouldn't say Steer must give 60 days opportunity for you to cure, but you only have to give them 15. So 60 days seem to be a reasonable amount of time for both parties to cure a breach. If it's a health and safety issue, then I believe that that is actually a breach that they wouldn't have that opportunity to cure. And I can put that in there if that would make you feel more confident that the district's interests are protected. But the stability of the students is also important, because if they only have 15 days to cure and they don't cure in 15 days and they say, okay, I guess we're out, then you don't have a program for your students and you can't stand up a program in 15 days.
yeah, I mean, the board can have a discussion. I'm just voicing my concerns and
Sure.
the research that I have done. So that's all I'm
I'm
just
giving
bringing
you
it to
my
the board.
yeah, and I'm just giving you my best answers
Sure.
based on having reviewed the contract and having seen a lot of these contracts, acknowledging that the interests of the district are paramount here. And it is important that you have a specialized program right now for students. And so contract negotiation is often like that, right? It's 60 days. And again, we can go back and say, are you open to a shorter cure period? My obligation is to give you my best legal advice as to whether or not that's prudent. You certainly, as a board, should have that discussion and consider the pros and cons about what you want to do.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other board member comments?
Madam President,
Yes, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions, mainly under 5.5, 15 days following receipt, or to make payment. I think that's not standard in most contracts. It's usually 30 days of an undisputed invoice. But in theory, the way this is written, if we have a dispute, but we don't pay the amount that's invoiced in 15 days, we're in breach. I think that should probably be adjusted to 30 days following receipt of undisputed fees, would be my preference. Also, I do hear what Board Member Zimmerman is talking about as far as the language of termination. I think that can be cleaned up. But as far as obligating the district, which there were a couple of recommendations of obligating the district, that's never standard to obligate the district in anything, because you're essentially negotiating against yourself, and that would not be a contract lawyer would not advise of that, and I think that's why our current legal counsel has not added that in there. So those would be my feedback on this topic.
With all due respect, Mr. Todd, I missed some of what you said, and I'm trying to take notes to capture the concerns. Can you repeat what you said about negotiating against yourself and what you said after wanting 30 days?
There were some, there were statements about adding some more requirements of the district. I think that's negotiating against ourselves, and I concur that you've left that out. I agree with that. But you have not put that in there. I don't think that should be added. We should never obligations of the district into a contract with a vendor. That's a no-no. So I'm happy that you've kept that out. I think it should remain out. And just any contract lawyer that handles that kind of stuff, I'm sure would agree. So I think you did good there. I appreciate your work. My only other thing was the 5.5, 15 days following receipt of an invoice we need to pay. and most everything is a net 30. I don't feel that our district has ever really been able to turn something around in 15 days, nor do I think other places are. That's a short time frame. And if we have any sort of dispute, if we don't pay that disputed amount, then we're basically a breach of the contract. So I would like to see that be changed to 30 days of undisputed fees. And then you could add something in there, the parties must agree to, clarify or agree, fix the undisputed, I don't know what the phrase is, but basically fix the disputed fees, come to an agreement within 45 days or something of that nature. But otherwise, as it is right now, if we get disputed fees and we want to dispute them, we got 15 days to figure it out. And if we don't, then we're a breach of the contract. So I think 30 days undisputed, and parties should have any disputed agreed upon within 45 days.
Will you have an additional 10 days if Steer says you're in breach? But let me make sure you are suggesting 30 days following Liberty's receipt of invoice if undisputed, an additional 15 days if the amounts invoiced were disputed. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's right. You would basically, right now we're set up to, we have to pay them within 15 days. So if we're expecting to pay them $10, and I'm just, obviously that's not the amount, but we're expecting to pay them $10 this month, and they send us an invoice for $30. If we don't pay that $30 within 15 days, I believe we're in dispute, we're in breach of our contract. So what I'm suggesting there is that we change everything to be 30 days, first and foremost, because I think that it's very difficult for our finance department to be able to turn this in 15 days. They may be able to do it some of the time, but other things are going on in the district that, can take up some time. So I think we should pay undisputed invoices in 30 days, and anything that's disputed, the parties should have an agreement finalized within 45 days and then paid.
I've taken notes. I've taken notes on that. I do want to caution the board that you currently do need to provide services to students. And the longer that this contract goes unapproved, or you don't get some resolution on whether or not it's going to be approved, you're putting student services at risk.
I appreciate that comment, but I would also say that we need to protect our district and do the right thing. This contract should have been brought to us quite some time ago. This is the second one that's kind of being jammed down our throat with special ed. That there's been plenty of money paid in consulting fees, transition time, and everything else that should have been done sooner. And so now we have to work extra fast and extra hard to get it done. But we have to protect our district. And to your point, if we don't pay within 15 days, as the contract currently reads, we're in breach. And then they can start moving out, and then we don't have services.
No,
again.
you have 10 days to cure. You have 10 days to cure after they notify you that you're in breach. But I have made notes of the timing that you've requested, depending on how the board decides to move forward this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead.
And I'm just gonna comment about Mr. Todd's. I think I didn't research, what the other contracts say, so I don't know what is typical. I think 30 days is probably fine, especially because I don't think there's going to be as many differences, I guess, because it's just like a flat rate. We're providing all the related services. We're providing the transportation. Like, we are providing everything else, whereas before that wasn't the case. So like different things were getting billed.
Right.
So I think there was more to like reconcile, where here it's just like, how many students did you have? That's the bill. So I think in this particular contract, I just don't think there's going to be as much to dispute. That's just my personal opinion. So,
President Schmidt, may I make a comment?
Yes,
Just I
please.
want to clarify. 60 days, we have both to rectify any breach in contract. Would that include if we have a dispute against the invoice?
No, there's a specific provision. And again, this comes to you partly based on what Steer agreed to, right? So as I'm going through legal advice, these are the things where from a legal advice perspective, you can agree to it. If you don't want to, then we go back and we negotiate. But a billing dispute, a money dispute has has a shorter cure period. It has a 10-day cure period versus the 60 for any other material breach of the contract.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, go ahead.
can we just ask our executive or director of finance, is she comfortable being able to turn all these in 15 days? Because if you start doing this, everybody's going to want 15-day terms. Is she 100%? She'd put her job on the line that this is never going to be a problem. We're never going to go past 15 days. Because if we go past 15 days, as it is now, we still have our 10 days to cure. But if you start paying late and something goes wrong, no other vendor is going to want to come in and work with you. So are we 100% sure we're willing to put our jobs on the line that we're going to turn this guaranteed every time, no matter what, in 15 days?
Good evening, Madam President, Governing
Please
Board.
go ahead.
Yes, I would say this wouldn't be realistic.
Okay.
I think our purchase orders already say 30-day turnaround. So just from years of experience, 15 days, since we don't print checks here, they're printed out of Maricopa County, is probably not reasonable.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead.
But thank you for that answer. I was going to speak up too. I do a lot of invoicing, and we never deal with the net 15. It's always 30 or 45. 15 is extremely short, especially for a district with multiple schools.
That's absolutely the prerogative of the board.
All right, thank you. Anybody want to?
I just, if the board would agree to just discuss just a couple of the things, like, are we okay with on like 1.1, just removing, unless either party provides written notice to the other party of its election to terminate this agreement at least 60 days prior to the expiration of the then current term. And then maybe you add something in, or is subject to termination provisions as set forth in sections 2 and 3. I think that's fine. Like, I don't know.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead.
Some of the notes, I think 1.1, I think you call them provisions. If we just remove that provisions, the 60-day, and just leave it in the termination section, I think that is what we were talking about. And then one other one was 3.2. I'm fine where it is, but if we want to add the at a Liberty campus, that was on the discussions. And then the 5.5, see if we could do 30 days instead of 15. I think that sums up everything we pretty much talked about.
Mhm.
And then just 6.2 to cure the breach. Is everyone okay that it's 60 days?
I'm okay with it because it gives us our 60 days
Mhm.
also.
Yeah, I would agree with that because it gives us a chance. Yeah, so my understanding for 1.1 was to just separate them out so that it's clearer to read. The sorry, I'm just looking at it again so I know what I'm saying.
So
So to have 1.1 just be the sentence about the term.
Yep.
And then the second part of that paragraph, that's about the provisions and the termination, just move that maybe into the termination section, make sure that it's covered there.
yeah,
I think
is
it
covered.
already is covered there. So I think if we remove it, but just have 1.1 just be the straightforward, the term is this long.
everything after the unless.
Yeah.
That's the confusing part. Got
Yep.
it.
Yep, exactly. Okay. And then I think what Mr. Cirincione said, if you have those, I'm also in agreement that that covers everything. And I feel comfortable with those changes.
Yeah, we just have to wait and see what they say about the 15 days.
Yeah, well, we'll have to we can approve it with the changes and then they'll take it back to steer and hopefully they then approve it and then we're good to go. So would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the special education service agreement with Steer for special education services with the changes noted.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Right, we have a motion and a second to approve the steer agreement. We can take a vote. Mr. Todd,
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman,
Aye, and I'd like to explain my vote.
Mr. Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that passed 4-0. Ms. Zimmerman, go ahead.
Thank you. I did vote aye because I am in agreement that we need to provide services for our students. That 60-day cure period really does give me pause in terms of protecting our students if they're in breach. And I feel like that's a long time. And, I feel like, again, we kind of did get this late in the game, right? The year's already started and we kind of have to move forward with it. And I recognize that and I want our students to have services, but I still don't feel 100%. So.
All right, thank you. We can move on to agenda item 5.8, approval ratification of FY 25-26 expense vouchers 2653, 2654, 2655 in the amount of $1,316,278.60. Ms. Zimmerman, you had a question. You asked for this to be pulled.
If we could pull up. Sorry, I apologize. If we could pull up voucher 2654, please. And we'll go to page 6 of that voucher. And so we are looking at the vendor Rogers Rewards, which we've talked about before. This particular PO is for $14,700 for HR consulting. And when I asked staff about how many hours this covered, I was given the answer of 84 hours, which equals $175 an hour. And so I'm just pointing this out. It is something that's already been done. We cannot change, but there's been a lot of conversation about certain contracts, and I just want to make sure that we are holding ourselves accountable for all contracts and not just certain ones. And then page 8, it kind of goes into page 9. It just Verigy is listed on page 8, and then on page 9 it gives you the information. So my question here is that these are about services and repairs to, it looks like solar for Verigy. And I just, Verigy is new. And so I just wondered if there's any kind of warranties or anything. It seems like a lot of money, $14,000 to be fixing stuff that we just got from them. So I just wanted to see if the district has looked into that or,
Madam President, governing board members. I don't know, Mr. Carvis, do you have an update on the warranty side? I know from the finance side, I've seen from previous year an open PO to provide maybe a panel for the solar or things like that if something goes out, but I haven't really looked deep dived into Verigy. But I know you're working on that as well.
I just finalized the paperwork, so we should be able to warranties for everything. Actually, I faxed it over.
So is it something that we could then expect them to reimburse us for, since we've already paid this now? I know this has already happened and then it comes to us.
President Schmidt,
Yes, Ms. Camara.
Mr. Carvis, can I have you please speak into a microphone? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, at this point, I haven't really looked into it to see what the services were. As far as I know, this is part of the lease agreement. Um, it's not yet any warranty work. The warranty paper hasn't come yet for any of these solar panels and anything else they've done through the performance contract.
Okay, so I mean, so these aren't repairs, these POs?
There shouldn't be any repairs for any solar at this point. No.
Okay, so um maybe we could just, in a board update or something, we could just get some clarification as to what this paid for then, I guess, so that we just make sure that we're, again, we're giving Verigy a lot of money. And I just want to make sure that, we're getting what we
Okay,
should.
I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we're gonna go to voucher 2653. Page 5. And again, this is just another consulting contract. Again, I'm just pointing out that we spent $4,600. And when I was asked for the work that was the hours that were entailed, I believe it was 48. I calculated the average per hour, $191 per hour. So, I know that we are going to be doing things differently, and I appreciate that. But I still think that it's important that we recognize that decisions were made in the past by different administration. And there are reasons we're in certain situations. And so it's just important for me, for the public, to continue to be transparent. So that's all I have for this agenda item. So with that, I make a motion to approve 5.8.
Right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Right, we have a motion and a second to approve 5.8. We can take a vote. Mr. Todd?
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that passed 4-0. Moving on to item 5.9, approval ratification of FY 26-27 expense vouchers 2701, 2702, 2703 in the amount of $947,379.60. Ms. Zimmerman, go ahead.
Okay. Voucher 2702, page 3. This is for defined learning, which we had heard about before in a presentation, that I believe some of our schools are using for signature programs. And so I just wanted a little bit of an explanation. I noticed that, some were coded from M&O and some were coded from the capital fund. But just kind of an opportunity, I guess, to have a discussion about the cost of signature programs and how the district is going to manage these per site, I guess. So can you explain why one is coded out of M&O and one is coded out of capital?
Good evening again, Madam President and governing board members. To answer the first question, prior to me being here, there were some purchase orders that were issued. This is something I'll be reviewing moving forward, not only for last fiscal year, but prior to when I started July 1, just auditing a code. So I did catch that and appreciate you seeing that and catching that. So that was just a correction. Also tracking, we have sent out M&O and capital budgets to our school sites. And since just being new, I went and issued ones that were just had been at the district already being used. So having been here a few more weeks, I was able to create a more detailed, take into consideration ADM, square footage for custodial supplies, and a breakdown per dollar per student to track. Also, creating new account codes to ensure that it can be tracked in our financial system. Currently, it's not specifically being tracked detailed by school or by department. So it's in the works. It is different steps I have to do, which I've done in my previous employment. But yeah, signature program, anything the schools will be purchasing, that's something we may go back and look at to make sure we are going to provide enough budget capacity for each signature program. We have been discussing that in cabinet and about the funding, and if we need to, then yeah, I can adjust a line and give them specifically a budget maybe for that. But it's too soon still. But
Okay, so but right now, this is going to come out of their school's
Yes,
site
correct.
budget. Okay,
yeah, right. And this
Okay.
is, like I said, I'm new and I've tried to review the last few years of their purchasing, what they've been buying at the schools. And I feel like, yeah, there's going to be some adjustments, but not devastating because we already gave them an amount. So, but it'll be an adjusting year this year. So,
yeah. And I appreciate that you did that because I think, it has been a discussion on the board before about how to kind of track that. And so I think that will be very helpful, both for you and for the board and our principals. Hopefully we'll find that useful. So
to be able to run their own reports.
Yeah.
Right. To track it as well as important to give them budgets. So
appreciate that. Thank you.
Mhm.
And that's all I have. So with that, I make a motion to approve 5.9.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve 5.9. We will take a vote. Mr. Todd,
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman,
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Will show that passed 4-0. Excuse me. Moving on to general business 6.1, discussion consideration to approve the third set of stipends for SY 26-27. Dr. Doozy.
All right. President Schmidt, governing board members, and community, I'm here tonight to present the part 3 of finally 4 that we'll finish up with next month of our stipend update. I appreciate both the board's patience as well as our community and our staff as we really did a deep dive into each of our stipends and made sure that we had a formula that we were using and applying and to provide our staff with compensation through stipends. I think I have a clicker here, so the purpose of my presentation tonight is to provide the governing board and our community with an update on the recommended changes specific to Liberty Elementary School District stipends and request the governing board approve the stipend recommendations as presented this evening. As I shared, this is part 3 of part 4, so please know that there are still some more stipends that we will bring forward in September, and we are using this time to explore some labor laws around some of those stipends, as well as some additional stipends that I'll speak about a little bit as we go that were brought to my attention after I prepared this presentation for you. This act tonight is directly aligned to our strategic priority and goal alignment in the area of instructional services. So being able to increase opportunities for our students beyond the school day as well as within the school day, stipends allow us to do that. And then also some of our stipends also directly impact students' ability to show proficiency. Our employee excellence, when we provide a compensation package that compensates those for going above and beyond in those areas as far as their endorsement, extra job duties, we allow the opportunity to recruit and maintain high quality staff that feel appreciated and supported. And then also professional development. Some of the stipends you've approved over this last cycle are directly linked to professional development, and I'll talk a little bit about those stipends tonight as well. And then also prioritizing a robust and comprehensive employee benefits package. Again, some of these compensations are tied to our salary schedule that's posted for the public. So when employees are considering employment with us, they can see the compensation that they would earn for having those extra endorsements. And then last but not least is really optimizing our budget capacity and making sure that we're being responsible in how we spend our funds. I shared this with you last time we met, but we spent some time explaining what our criteria was and how we determine what a stipend is. So stipends can fall into one of three categories. One is hard to fill, employee positions supported by data. Additional job stipend that work beyond the current or an assigned position. And then stipend for degrees or endorsements that add value. So the first set of stipends falls under that category 3, which is endorsements as part of the salary schedule. And these are the endorsements. Some of these you've already approved, but I just wanted to put them all in one place so we just understand that what's going to be on the salary schedule moving forward is that when our staff come to us with on their certificate that's provided by ADE, if they have an ESL endorsement, a gifted endorsement, a reading endorsement, or a bilingual endorsement, they will get $1,000 added to their salary for their compensation. The one up there that's new for you that's tonight is the math endorsement. There was some confusion. Some of the stipends have been confusing. I've learned a lot in the last few weeks about the stipends and how Liberty's history with stipends, but know that tonight really the one that you are bringing forward is to approve the math stipend, but I wanted to make sure that I had them all here. So when we're approving tonight, we understand exactly what endorsements are going to be approved as part of our salary schedule. The next recommended stipends for approval are also type 3, which is they're type 3, which is additional preferred certifications or terminal degrees. Currently, we have been stipending our nationally board certified teachers, individuals that carry a doctoral degree, and our national certified school psychologist. As you can see in one column, I represent the past stipend amount, any recommended title changes, and then the recommended stipend amount that I'm displaying this evening for you, and then any type of rationale is provided in the presentation. So basically the only change to this from our past practice is that we bring all 3 certifications and terminal degrees to the same stipend amount, which is $2,500. I will note we do not currently have a nationally certified school psychologist at Liberty currently. If we did, there is benefit to that because their supervision over individuals does strengthen our organization. So I do recommend continuing these 3 stipends and making sure that the national certified school psychologist also has the same recognition as national board certified teacher. Our next stipends for approval is under the type 2, which is stipend for work significantly beyond contracted job role. This is for our individuals that are related service providers. This is where there's been a little bit of confusion in my understanding, so I just wanted to clarify this evening. I did get some clarification today from Dr. Avila and Dr. Whiteford in regards to these 3 roles. Traditionally, Liberty has stipend these roles as part of the salary schedule as $5,000 annually. Currently, we have 1 person for each role, but if we were to add another bilingual therapist, psychologist, or speech, my understanding would be that they would also get the bilingual. The reason why I believed it was significant work beyond significantly is because they not only help at the schools that they're assigned, but if there were need to be evaluation, sometimes we have students that we have to delineate between a language difference, English language not being their first language, and an actual disability. So those psychologists, speech therapists, or occupational therapists will be serving our entire district with those skills and endorsements. So it's kind of a combination of an endorsement, which is our type 1, and a type 2. Did I capture that correctly, Dr. Avila? And I can pause now because I've covered quite a few. So why don't we pause and I'll take any questions for these first few stipends.
Sorry, is that okay, Ms. Schmidt?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Just so that, we're talking about at the same time. So this particular one that you just referred to, so I just want to make sure I understand. We currently only have 1 each. Like we only employ currently 1 bilingual occupational therapist, 1 bilingual psychologist, and 1 bilingual SLP.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, as I thought about this and like kind of, questions that I've asked, and, I think, $5,000 is a significant stipend. And I think this is, okay, let me ask a second question first. Do we have any of these roles, an OT, a psychologist, or an SLP, that have currently applied to our district and like are waiting to be interviewed? Okay.
Dr. Avila just confirmed no.
So I think this could be a good opportunity for the board to say, we're only going to have 1 per related service area, because again, $5,000 is a significant amount of money. And I guess my question to the district would be, do you think that is sufficient, or do you think we need more?
I will defer to Dr. Avila because she has the most knowledge and expertise in this area.
Madam President, members of the governing, I would say that that's not sufficient because last year we had to contract a bilingual speech pathologist because we don't have enough support. So an example is our district bilingual SLP is at Estrella. We have Spanish needs, and the amount is appropriate because they don't just speak Spanish. They evaluate in Spanish, they report, diagnose, and it's the IEPs. There's a lot of work in going through the evaluation process. So we'll have to deploy the SLP to different school sites to conduct the evaluations in Spanish, but it's not just one evaluation. So as a school psychologist, I'm going to go in and I'm going to have my battery, cognitive, social, emotional, all of the areas. When I do my bilingual eval, I have to do all of my English batteries in addition to Spanish. It's double the work. And I'm using my license. And like it is a lot of work. So one is just, it is not enough. Right now, our bilingual occupational therapist is at preschool. Last year, she conducted 183 evaluations. That's excessive. That's extraordinary. So to have her deploy her to the other schools to do the evaluations, that's not fair and that's not appropriate. So appropriate is having it remain on the salary schedule as it has historically been, and also know that's a recruiting component that we use to attract the staff here. So it's very hard to attract. And when I hear, oh, well, the salary schedule is low, but when I'm attracting a bilingual person, there's a stipend for $5,000. So it's for recruiting purposes. It's to meet the needs of our community. There are higher needs in different schools for the Spanish, and so I believe it's appropriate remaining as is and continuing to be on the salary schedule.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
2 questions. So on the first one with like the endorsements and reading, math, and bilingual, do they to receive this, and I'm sorry if it's already been answered, but do they have to be, so if I have an endorsement in math, do I have to be teaching math to receive these? Because if I'm endorsed in math, but I'm teaching PE, I shouldn't be getting a stipend for math.
That is up to the will of the board. Currently, what Liberty has done, and just because we didn't pass doesn't mean we have to continue it, but the staff that has this credentials on their certificate would get the $1,000 as part of their salary. This is a little different than a stipend that you agree to do extra work. It's because you have this endorsement and it's on our salary schedule as a compensation benefit. So currently, no, sir. Right now, if you have the endorsement, you get compensated the $1,000. If the board, will of the board, if you guys wanted to make it where you had to be using it for your job, then we would need to make that change. And also, one other thing that I will just say, anything that we decide tonight impacts now, right? With staff that already agreed to their contract or already employed with us. So maybe some of the things that we may want to change in the future about you have to be using this endorsement in the role that you have. Might be future forward work. Our goal would be, once we substantiate this list of stipends very clearly, which level they fall into, what exactly it means, what the list of job roles are, we're going to bring it back to the board annually before contracts are ever given. So staff know exactly what their compensation packages will be based on their endorsements that they have.
100% agree with you on that. The only, I guess, devil advocate to that is, if any on here that you're trying to raise this year, they've already agreed to the lower amount. So why would we raise those this year?
We already approved on April 13th, all of them except math though.
Even the changes to going to the next stipend.
No, I'm just referring.
So I'm saying in general, all of them. If these changes we talk about, you're right, we need to worry about next year. But why would we raise them this year if we're not going to make the different requirements until next year?
That would be the will of the board. So that's up to you all. I will admit we are behind on bringing these stipends. But I do believe in the work that we're doing to make sure that we establish a strong foundation of stipends moving forward. Because I agree the stipends had a lot of work to do. And I'm sure at one point, stipends that were developed over time served their purpose, for whoever was making those decisions. But as I was unraveling this with our team, it definitely was an area that needed a deep dive and extra time and extra love. So
I think the only one that is a change, an increase, is the nationally certified school psychologist, right? Which would have been an increase in $500, but we don't actually have one on staff. So it doesn't
exactly.
It doesn't
For
impact
these
anybody
slides.
unless it was a future hire at this point. But
That is correct.
yeah, the rest of them are all the same.
Oh, I agree. It's one way or the other.
I hear you.
Yes. Good point. Thank you. Any other questions, or are we okay to move to slide number 9?
I think we're good.
All right. So these are also a type 2, which is stipend for work beyond the contracted job role. And so we in the past have had what we call lead teachers for PE, music, art, science, social studies, and counselor. And what these roles did was help collaborate across the district for these particular roles that might have been singletons, right? They didn't have a collaborative team because they might only be the only art teacher, the only PE teacher. So what we recommend is, before it ranged from $550 to $1,100. I couldn't really find the justification or the reason why there was a range, but I'm just telling you there was a range. So as an admin cabinet, or as a committee that worked on these stipends, we decided that we'd like to call it a district collaborative team coordinator, because we believe that more accurately reflects the expectations of this role, that it's not a lead just on their campus, but it is a coordinator that is organizing collaborative team meetings on those workday Fridays for this group, as well as in being a mentor to those other disciplines across our 8 schools. And then we also have a lead teacher, CST, which stands for Child Study Team. And we also recommend just using the same nomenclature of site collaborative team coordinator for child study team. So kind of staying in that collaborator, that coordinator language. In the past, we paid $550 annually for that role. And we are recommending right now to continue that same amount. I have had principals reach out to me about this role, saying they believe it does have a larger stipend, could be justified. I just don't have the evidence or data to support that. So I'd like to spend time this year really looking at what these folks are doing for their campuses, as far as making sure we honor child find, our interventions. Before we ever consider evaluating a child for special education, we should really have a sound response to intervention or multi-tiered approach to making sure kids have what they need in the tier 1, tier 2, and then possibly even tier 3 without becoming special education. So this role, as I understand it, is the person on the site that coordinates those efforts. Right now, I don't know exactly how many hours that is, so I'd like to recommend that it remains the same as it was in the past, and we could revisit that as I learn more. The next type of stipend is also a stipend 2 for work beyond the contracted job role. My trifocals are not as good as they used to be, so I have it on my screen too. Sorry, my apologies.
Can I ask you a
So,
question? real
yes,
quick? I'll
absolutely.
Move on. And if I was writing notes, so I might have missed it. The district collaborative team coordinator, there's only going to be one per subject, correct?
Yes, sir.
For-
It would be
for
for the
all,
whole
okay.
district. Yes, that's a great observation. The first role that we have for the district collaborative team coordinator, which is about our counselors and our CHAMPS teachers and our science and social studies, is different than the collaborator for child study team because that's on the site.
Okay, can I ask a question since you're here?
Yeah.
When I looked at the child study team site coordinator and I noticed that it is like less than pretty much any other stipend. And then when I went and looked at the tiered, the lowest tier we have for our other, different things, I'm not saying we're using a tiered approach for this, is $400. And then the next tier is $800. So to me, I feel like if you're doing child study right, it is a ton of work and collaboration, and I would assume time. So I appreciate that you want to look into it and leave it, but I would probably agree that it probably needs to come up. And I can't remember if maybe people that have been here longer, if this was one of those positions, I'm looking at our principals, one of the positions that if you had an assistant principal, you didn't get a stipend for this, or did all campuses get to have this position?
I can actually answer that just by the analysis. We did pay out 7. So there was one campus that did not have one. And that was from 24-25, all reconciled. So I'm thinking it was Loretta Zumbro. So each campus did have one in 24-25.
But what about 25-26?
I don't know that, but I know 24-25. I haven't gotten the reconciled list of stipends yet from then. So
Because I think that's where we
Mhm.
made the change into 25-26.
oh, gotcha.
Because
Yeah.
we made the cuts.
Gotcha. I just kept recommended the same just because I figured it came from some justification and rationale of why that 550 was selected and approved by the board. And I didn't have a rationale at this time of concrete data, but I do agree with you. The principals have reached out to me and said, hey, this is something we do want you to look at. I just didn't feel prepared today to tell you my justification for raising it because I haven't actually seen it myself.
Okay.
But again, the will of the board, if you guys wanted to increase it, that's definitely something that you could do this evening. All right, so this next group of stipends is also stipend for work beyond the contracted job role. We have a lead nurse, lead speech. I will share with you that I learned we also have a lead psychologist and a lead OT. So I didn't feel comfortable adding that to the presentation as I found out so last minute. I want time to deliberate over that with the team, but that is something I'll be bringing back. But for the purposes of this meeting, we have we changed the title to district nurse coordinator. That stipend used to be $2,000. We're recommending tonight for you to consider it to be $3,000. Our director of district speech coordinator, which used to be lead speech, our past stipend amount was $4,000, and we're recommending to also make it the same as the district nurse coordinator, which is $3,000. And I think you can probably guess, my cadence here is going to be to recommend both the psychologist and OT be the same stipend. But again, I'm not bringing that tonight. I'm going to bring that to you next time. And the rationale is we believe that the title more accurately represents exactly what they're doing for the district, that it's not just a campus lead, it's a district lead that oversees all our nurses, oversees all our speech. And we also feel that making them the same stipend amount is appropriate.
Sorry, another
Okay,
question.
that's okay.
So we're looking at these stipends, right? And it says like the coordinator is responsible for support and oversight of all, just looking at the speech one, speech therapists, speech services, and speech language pathologists across our district. So isn't somebody at the district responsible for that? Like, why are we taking somebody from one of the schools and making them the district coordinator? Shouldn't somebody in the district, shouldn't this be under their roles and responsibility already?
So I will defer to Dr. Avila because this has been a structure that's been in place. So she can explain more of why it's a needed.
So these positions, yes, so all of the positions are under special services. The leads lead their groups. So for example, during PD Fridays, they're responsible for the professional development for each of these groups. And the professional development for the school psychologist is going to look different than the occupational therapist. So it's not, just oversight of 8 people. It's also inventory, caseloads. When we have difficult cases, we lead on the lead to do either the evaluating, the report writing, the IEPs, but then they also help with staffing gaps, staffing needs. So at this time, we don't have a speech coordinator, but last year when we had vacancies, they would help cover the vacancies at the sites. So that included coordinating, ensuring students receive services, if not stepping in and giving services themselves to the school sites that did not have a speech pathologist. It also includes supervision, so their licenses are also on the line for supervising SLPAs, billing, Medicaid, overseeing all of billing requirements, ensuring that the billing is confirmed, appropriate, and submitted. For the nurse coordinator, the role again is we're using their license. The district is using their license. There's only one. It includes interpreting doctor's orders, procedures, invasive procedures for some students, and taking the responsibility for that, and then also training others how to do certain procedures on the site, taking lead on the professional development. So while the executive director oversees the department in general, specializing in having a license in all these roles is not something that I have. So we need a lead who is licensed and able to lead the group and all of the staff within their subgroup.
Okay, I'm just going to ask it because I might not be the only one with the question, but when we get hired at the district, right, and you're overseeing these positions, was that part of the job description when you got hired? You know what I mean? So that's my problem with some of these stipends is like if somebody got hired to do these positions, but now we're paying a stipend for somebody else to do it when it was in the first person's job description, I just want to make sure that we're not doing that. Like that means we're paying 2 people to do the same job.
And I would say no. So for example, like the lead nurse in the job description, interpreting doctor's orders and training for specific procedures is not in the job description.
Please don't get me wrong. I wasn't like, I said you, but I wasn't like directing it at you. I just
was
mean
trying to
in
give it to a
general,
Mhm.
like I just want to make sure that like when we're doing these stipends that we're not double paying. Like if it was in
Mhm.
somebody's job description, I don't think we should be paying somebody else to be doing that also.
Mhm.
Not you directly. I'm sorry.
Well, and Dr. Avila in her current role cannot oversee our speech and language assistants, only a speech and language certified, and that would be that person. So, and it is a cost savings to the district to use SLP assistants or OT assistants versus a full therapist. So even though we might be paying $3,000 for a person to supervise, 5, 6 assistants, the assistants alone are a savings because we're not paying 5 or 6 more therapists.
Okay. Thank
So,
you.
But great question. Thank you. We're ready to move on. Okay, so this is something that should look familiar. There's no changes. Athletic coach, we kept it at $900 per season. And one thing I will note as we were looking through, and I'm not sure how we got here, but there was, and I did look at actually 24, 25, 26 in this, we were paying some sports differently. And so what we did is we just made sure no matter if it was a female sport or a male sport, typically, that we were paying all the same stipend for the coaches, just to honor Title IX obligations. So. This also is not a change. This is something that has already been in practice in Liberty. And as we met, we agreed that we should continue it. Again, still evaluating it throughout the school year. So right now, if you're a club sponsor, there are what we call, I'm trying to remember, I can't see up there. We call it classes. And so this has been already established by our payroll. So if you're a class 1, that means your club that you're sponsoring has taken you 25 hours. Class 2 would be 40. Class 3 would be 50 hours. Class 4 would be 60. Class 5 would be 100. And it's my understanding if you have a club that's 20 hours, then it would be prorated, from that 500 to appropriately pay you for the class. The one thing that I will note for you is, just as our executive director of business indicated, our schools now have an allocated M&O budget that we know that it's a work in progress because we want to make sure that our numbers are solid, but they now will have a coding mechanism and they can actually take these clubs out of their M&O and prioritize what clubs they believe are the most impactful and what they want to sponsor. And then also they can use tax credit as well for their campus to pay for some of these stipends. And then last but not least, in our 301 plan, our teachers receive some of their 301 money for volunteering. So the principal could also decide, hey, I'm going to run this club. It's 25 hours, and that's going to be this particular teacher's volunteer hours. So there's just lots of different ways that we can give autonomy to the principals to decide, am I going to pay for this club out of M&O that's been allocated to me already, set budget, tax credit, or that 301. This is also something that is a continuation, which is really exciting, that we have been able to provide our English language learners with some really specialized tutoring. And so we're able to continue to do that out of Title III funds, which is specifically only can be spent on our English language learners. So we are just recommending to the board that we continue to offer $25 an hour for planning and then $30 an hour for the actual tutoring. What you'll see is a change in this recommendation is we'd also like the board to consider additional list of job duties outside of contract. And so what that means is if we're paying teachers to work directly with students, that would be $30 an hour, just like we're doing with EL. And then without students would be $25 an hour. And some examples, if a principal wanted to have a guiding coalition, let's say meets after school or in the morning, invites staff to be on that team, they could, out of their M&O, again, out of their M&O, their decision making, what's already been budgeted to them, they can decide how many people they want to pay $25 an hour to be part of that group. So it just gives the principal autonomy, but still having them operate in the budget that's already been allocated to them to provide these extra opportunities. For whatever it might be. It might be to get some work done on campus. It might be to get, to help particular students. This is a new stipend that we've never had before at Liberty, and it does follow under the Type 2, which is a stipend for work beyond the contracted job role. Kind of twofold here. We are legally obligated to provide this acceleration opportunity. There was a new law passed this year. Also, it's the right thing to do that we offer this acceleration opportunity to all students. So in the past, for whatever reason, I don't know how we arrived where we arrived, but we had one campus that we offered students this opportunity. I'm excited to say that we're going to have 4 campuses that opportunity to have this for all kids. So all kids that met the criteria will have that opportunity to participate for the first time. So we went from about 31, no, it was not about, it was 31 students last year. This year, I think we're up to 92 students that will be participating in this opportunity. what we'd like the board to consider tonight is providing a stipend for those 4 teachers. And the rationale is we really need to look at our alignment with the high school content. Just stating facts. I'm sure there's lots of great people that have been working really hard on this program for lots of years, but the facts that I got from Buckeye Union High School, we had 31 kids take algebra last year. 16 participated in the summer assessment. I don't know if that was parent choice or grades, but 16 are what showed up to take that assessment with Buckeye, and 5 passed. So we really need to look at our alignment with the high school. And so with this stipend, these folks will not only be teaching a high school level class, but there also be expectations around collaboration with the high school teachers to make sure that we're mapping and we're preparing our kids so they're ready for that assessment and they can get the credit that they've earned. So,
Madam President.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sorry again, but so these stipends are stackable, correct? So yes, so this
Yes.
math, the people teaching this, they'll get this, and then they'll get another $1,000 for.
Yes.
Okay, which I'm not saying a problem with,
Yeah.
but I just want to bring it to the board's attention. So they're getting that extra $1,000, like it just goes back to people not teaching and still getting that $1,000. But if it's stackable, then disregard.
yeah. And that is one topic that I had brought up last stipend meeting, is that we currently have stacked stipends. So that might be something for the board to consider. But those stipends were already approved prior to our last stipend meeting. So my challenge would be to change it on staff at this point. So since it was already approved. And
Yeah, I guess what I was trying to get is like they definitely need to be receiving more by teaching this extra class than somebody
yeah.
that's.
Well, and another expectation would be they're going to have a whole nother collaborative team. So they're going to have their collaborative team at their respective campuses, but they're also going to have a collaborative team with the high school teachers that they're going to have. Now it's going to be during work hours, so just to make that clear. But it is time that they're going to have to dedicate to that, then maybe time that their colleagues maybe are dedicated to planning. Right. So they're going to have to make up that time on their own at some point, because they're going to be meeting with the high school teachers to help with that alignment.
Ms. Schmidt.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Has the high school give you an indication of like how much they're kind of willing to meet with our teachers?
Yeah. So I did meet with one of their assistant superintendents, and we originally said about 3 to 4 times during the year.
Okay.
In an in-person or virtual opportunity, but I still need to work those details out. But they are definitely eager to collaborate with us and get our kids ready, because they also want the kids to have the opportunity to do well on the test and get the credit. And also it helps the students in the long run, right? Higher mastery leads to higher opportunity. All right, so this is actually, if you remember the last board meeting about stipends, our approach, we went to a tiered stipend amount based on the service that particular site person that was leading the work was being compensated for. And in the past, if you remember, we had one flat rate, no matter if you had 100 EL kids or 12 EL kids. And so we use the same approach with our site level special ed coordinator, and I'm sure you're going to have questions about their roles, and I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Avila in just a moment. But so basically, the tiered caseload stipend for this role as a site special ed coordinator, it could range from $400 to $2,000, and that is exactly what we did for EL, gifted, and 504. That's the rationale for this. And so just to kind of show you a comparison, when I pulled 25-26, we spent, I can't read that from back here. Go to my next slide. We spent $8,000, and it will be an increase, so $11,200. So it is something the board needs to consider as far as it is an increase in the stipend. It's one of the few increases that I've brought before you, but it is something that we did feel would be a recommendation tonight we want you to consider. So if we go to the next slide, it kind of just shows you, similar to what you saw for 504 EL gifted, it just shows you how we would tier that stipend exactly the same way. We would use the 100-day count of the IEPs on that campus, and district office would submit the PAR for that payment, and it would be one lump sum for that special ed coordinator. And then just to give you an example, now I want to let you know that these numbers can fluctuate because, like I said, it's based on the 100-day count. But this just kind of gives you an example of where the tiers would lie. And so you can see we do have, some campuses that have 30 kids with an IEP, while we have other campuses that have 102 students with IEPs. So, and then Dr., do you want me just to go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Avila to explain? I can do that. That's fair enough.
Can I
Okay,
just
go ahead.
ask one
Yeah.
question? And when you are calculating the current IEP students, does that include students in CCA classes? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Does someone want to pose the question? And then I'll toss it off to Dr. Avila.
Can you explain what a special ed site coordinator, what their responsibilities are, please?
So the special ed coordinator is formerly known as the special ed lead teacher. And this is a role that the district has had for some time. The special ed lead teacher is the primary point at each school. So they attend the SPED lead meetings. They're responsible for compliance. They're leading the team on their site. They're also a support system for their administrators and office staff. When we have students who transfer with IEPs, they manage the IEPs, make sure that students are placed appropriately. They also assist staff with guidance and support with writing IEPs. So the SPED leads, these are our veteran teachers. They also help with implementing the IEPs, modeling if needed in the classroom, supporting with strategies, collaborating with the related services staff, leading, promoting the parent and guardian participation. So for example, part of our compliance with ADE is we're required to have a parent survey every year, annual survey. So it's the SPED lead's responsibility to try to get the most participation possible from their school. So that we leave that to them to increase participation, which quick shout out to Blue, because Blue was the only site with 100% participation. But that was because of the SPED lead calling the parents, making sure that the survey gets done. But also, being in meetings, supporting new staff. Last year, we had a few meetings where the new teachers needed support. So supporting new staff, special ed teachers with leading IEP meetings, writing the IEPs, writing the prior written notices, for example. So they take on the lead role in being the model, the guide, the support for even gen ed teachers, sitting with the gen ed teachers, supporting with how do we grade special education students with, in the different programs. So they're the lead point person on that site. The audit work. And yes, and for the audit work, thank you, Dr. Doozy. For the audit work, they will be the ones that will represent their site and be called on for the audit that's coming in November. And then we'll also lead that audit work, which will be very heavy.
And this is another example of how we're growing leaders that grow leaders. Many times teachers will stay in the classroom longer if you give them leadership opportunities to grow. So this is another example of the 504 coordinator, the gifted, the allowing our leaders, our educators to be leaders beyond their classroom, and also compensate them for that extra work to be that role model. That answer your question? All right, so this is stipend for work beyond the contracted job role. So this is something that the district has had in place for quite a few years. Is when I looked back, it's the over ratio teacher stipend. So current practice is $30 for a full day for any classroom that is in the red. And just for the community to understand what the red means, it means 4 over the board approved class sizes for that grade level. Prorated for the time for departmentalized classrooms, special education was by service minutes. So that was the prior model. What we're recommending is continuing the same title, but we would like to recommend a change, but also, we're open to discussing because we know anytime we change something, it's hard. But We would like to continue the 30 days for full day for those classes that are 4 over from the board recommended, which means in the red. But all the grade level must be in that position for the whole grade level to get that stipend. And the rationale for that, and I put it in here, but just to summarize, in previous practices, it was a very messy payroll process. Sometimes we were cutting checks for like $5, $7, and actually cutting checks for that amount actually costs more in people and time and money than the actual value of the check. And in addition, just as far as making sure that we are balancing classes. Now, I will say, when we look at some sections, we still will have some latitude. Like, for example, Las Brisas has 2 classes, let's say in second grade, that are our dual language and 1 class that's not. Well, I think if it's okay with the board, we would, in here, we're asking you to approve that we will consider those case by case, because they can't balance those classes any differently, because parents may choose the dual language and may not choose the dual language. So the principal doesn't really have an opportunity to balance the classes. Another example would be a combo class. We have some campuses that have had to, have a first, second grade if families don't want to be in that combo class. So then they end up having to fill up the non-combo class more. We would like to still honor that teacher, because we consider that kind of being a different grade level team, one that is a combo and one is not. So just know that when we're bringing this recommendation, we're asking you for that latitude to consider those unique circumstances where balancing can't be accomplished. We'd also like for the board to consider approving, when we get to the red in that over ratio, that we have 3 ways that we can take action. Because right now, currently, the board has approved that when we're in red, that's when we take action. So we'd like to recommend 3 actions. 1 would be providing the over ratio stipend to teachers if it's across the grade level. And then assigning an additional instructional assistant could also be an act upon remedy. And then, or adding a teaching position to reduce the class sizes. And it really is up to the building principal and our HR to determine which of those 3 steps is going to meet the needs of our students and that school the best. And if there can't be a consensus made between the principal and HR, the HR will have the final decision. So just because sometimes we get to an impasse and someone does have to make the decision. And then the other thing that I'll add to this conversation about the over ratio teacher stipend is just about special education. We will be working on an updated procedure. Right now, we do it by minutes. What we would like to do, Dr. Evelyn and I have talked, and definitely want to glean into her expertise in this field. But we'd like to look at our levels, like A, B, C, like look at how kids are leveled and figure out that over ratio stipend for our special ed, and then provide that as a procedure to the board in a Friday update. But they will also get compensated for over ratio for what they're servicing based on the program that they serve. I'll pause there because I know that's a lot.
Okay. Thank you. So my question is around special education. And so, I had a concern brought to me about taking away the minutes, right? And I went back and looked at our policy. And so our policy states 211.a, which is a procedure, but it's in policy, that it's like a full FTE is 25 students or 16,000 minutes. So I think that if administration would like to change, what we kind of consider over the caseload, then we probably should make it reflective in our policy, because I feel like it feels confusing, and I can understand the concern there, because I can see it both ways, right? Like 16,000 minutes, you're spending a lot of time servicing students. But if you have but you don't have as many students, then you're not writing as many IEPs. But if you have a lot of students and not as many minutes, you still are spending a lot of time writing IEPs. So it sounds like maybe there is a process, that you will bring to the board, but I would just like to see our policy match, I guess, because the way that it's defined right now, the class size ratios for special education are actually in policy, where regular education is not actually in policy.
And I agree, they're in a procedure, and the
Yes.
procedure is definitely something that our admin cabinet can balance and then present in a Friday update. It does not have to be approved by the board, but we certainly are happy to put in a Friday update and receive any feedback, because it is a procedure versus the policy. I will say I've done some work in the past, and again, Dr. Avila and I are gonna meet about this with other people that can have influence on this decision, but we did level it based on the levels, which kind of accounts for the minutes. Because if you're a level A student, you have so many minutes. If you're level B, if you're level C. So if you use that approach, you're kind of capturing not only how many kids, but what level of service the kids have without getting caught up in the exact amount of minutes, if that makes sense. So the minutes are where we're cutting checks for like $2, $3, $5. And so really looking at, how are we fairly compensating our staff with a formula that makes sense? And again, that would be a procedure that goes along with that policy.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then another question that I had, I kind of waited till here, but it kind of ties into the lead for special education is, how will you account for, let's say, there's a substitute teacher in a special education role, and so they cannot write IEPs. Is the lead expected to write those extra IEPs, or would that be considered like where we pay for them to write additional IEPs?
Madam President, members of the governing board, so the practice of the district has been if a teacher writes an IEP for a student not assigned to their caseload, they are compensated $100 per IEP.
Okay, so it wouldn't fall under the expectations of the special education site coordinator. Sorry, I want to use the right term now.
Sure, correct. So, and that would be work that we will work through, because that's something also on the list we need to work through. And just to clarify, Board Member Zimmerman, the district has paid over minutes and over ratios. So for example, a teacher could be over minutes and servicing total number of minutes 18,000 and have 15 students. So they would receive $30 a day for the over minutes and $30 a day for the over ratio. So there's actually two. That's not just one. And that's, future work to be done in addition to, and this was approved August 2022. That was in the same motion. That also included was staff. If you wrote an IEP, you could receive up to $100 per IEP, not to exceed $1,500, I believe is the motion.
Okay. So then my next question is, if we're paying the over the ratio, let's say for students, then are we also paying for them to write those additional IEPs? Or is that considered part of being the over the ratio?
Yes, because the student is on their case.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to ask those clarifying questions. Thank you.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to ask this because I have trust issues. So reading this over the ratio, and you're asking us to approve this of the board, reading this, it's making it sound like you're asking the board to give HR the permission to make additional positions inside the district, whether it be another teaching position or an additional instructing assistant. Is that correct?
I would say yes, because we have to act. So unless the board, at the bill of the board, you want us to bring every month, we're over in this area and we're adding additional staff, we're acting.
If you're trying to create a whole new position that's not on there, absolutely.
Okay. So, and maybe that's clarification that I need, because my past experience was the board agreed on that was the threshold for above the approved class, right? And then the administration, day-to-day operations would say, okay, these are the 3 actions we can take. 1 is we're going to pay over ratio, because we're not going to bring that back to the board. We're just going to act upon it. 2 is assigning an additional instructional assistant, or 3 is adding a teacher position. It just depends on honestly what makes the most sense because it is harder to find teachers.
Here's my problem with that. We just spent so much time cutting positions that, and the board took responsibility. Like, I don't want other people just randomly adding positions back without the board.
So when we are doing our 10-day drop, which is next week, we're going to be making decisions on how to act. So do you want us to wait until September 15th to act?
So the board already approved, right? You guys can speak up if I'm wrong. The board already approved like what positions we can have inside the district, like how many teachers, how many whatever, right? So I don't know how yes, like I might be wrong, but like we went through that. My understanding is like we approved those positions. We said you have to lose these positions. And to now just to come in and ask us to give you permission just to add these all back as you need. I understand you need, but I think that's something the board needs to be aware of before it happens.
So would you like to consider as a vote or a Friday update? Because the board approved class sizes, right? And so, and then approved triggers. You know, the blue means under, we need to do something about it, right? And that might mean collapsing sections that I would think that we would just move forward with that. We wouldn't get board approval. Green means we're on target. Yellow means we're watching it. And red means act is what I saw in the approved. So what I'm recommending is that the board gives us permission to either provide the over ratio stipend, assign an instructional assistant, or add an additional teacher if we're in the red. I'm not saying that we would act if we weren't in the red. We would only do that at the discretion of the board based on the class sizes were already approved and the threshold that was already approved as an act upon. But that's up to the will of the board. We can certainly bring it back to the board to get approval. It will impact in a different way. Every decision, right, the board makes has a cost and a benefit, and it's just deciding what we're willing to cost to be for the benefit we receive.
And can I ask a probably sort of a clarifying question on this? So if we were in the red and it came to the three options and the choice that ended up being the most responsible, best for students was to add another section and hire a teacher, I mean, we'd have to be far enough in the red that class would then not be in the blue.
Yes.
Because if it was in the blue, then we would need to collapse it.
Yes.
So,
yep, we just had
right,
that exact
it's just
conversation.
the like balance of
Yes.
how many extras do we have
Mhm.
and whether that would actually make sense. And if we were that many in the red, then, I mean, really the only realistic option is to add a section. It's probably
And
not going to happen.
You would
but-
still approve that teacher
Correct.
when they came to the board. So that could be your opportunity. But if you wanted us to get approval to post for a teacher position when we're in the red to act upon, and that is the best solution, then, and that's fine. We just would be a month delayed.
Yeah.
So my understanding has always been that when we approve those class size targets, that when it's in the red, they can post the position, because when you have additional students, you have additional ADM money. And, you know, in past budgets, those FTEs, like when we approved the budget, those FTEs were never right until I said something and I said, I want it to match up, because when we made all those cuts 2 years ago, we couldn't ever see the difference because those were just made up numbers. And so I hear what you're saying, but the reason that we're talking about teachers, we're not talking about adding random positions. These are just purely teaching positions. And so when those reductions happen, we're based on enrollment, based on the numbers. And so they're only adjusting based on the numbers. So I personally don't think it needs to come to the board if we're in the red. And then it's the responsibility of the district to make sure that we also have the funding for that teacher, because ultimately, you know, when we do a revision, right? Because we're going to do a revision in September, we're going to do a revision in December, and then probably in May. You know, all of those come to the board. So I think when we pass the class size targets and, you know, the maximums, the +4, that's the indication to our staff as to, okay, now you need to act. So that's always been my understanding.
I understand what you're saying, but it's the board's responsibility for the budget, because if it was the district's responsibility, then we shouldn't have been in the hole we are, but we are because of decisions that were made, and we never blamed the district in the past, right? We blamed the board's decisions. And so that's why I'm not comfortable with just giving, yes, go for it, because at the end, it's going to be our responsibility if the budget gets jacked up again, because it looked great at the time to hire like 3 more teachers, and then now the payroll is increased by 3 more teachers. So that's what makes me uneasy. Not saying you guys will do that, but again, the trust issue thing is like, we say the district, but it's been the district. It's different people, but it's like the possibility of the same outcome is there. And if we don't watch it, then we can't blame anybody again except ourselves.
I hear you. I do. I mean, and it's one of the reasons I always pointed out, like the red, all of last year, as I kept saying, like, we're in the red. And, I didn't feel like things were being done. There was a kindergarten class. I can't even remember. I think it might have been a Freedom or a Rainbow. And they were at like 29 kids all year. And I'm like, why are we not hiring for kindergarten? These poor little babies. And so that's why I kept doing that, because I think that we needed to act. So I don't know. I mean,
So
I
will
hear what
the-
you're saying, but I also want to be able to move forward, right? Like, we have new administration. I've told Dr. Doozy there are trust issues, like in there, I say things and bring up things because things have happened in the past. But I also have said we have to move forward. If I continue to live in the past, like, we're not going to be able to move the district forward the way that I think they're capable of doing. And so I hate to see our classes sit in the red. I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean,
I know you.
I
I
don't
know.
either.
I know.
And we don't want to tie their hands by making them bring it to the board when, because for the rest of the year, we have 1 meeting scheduled. Can we make more? Sure. We love to have meetings around here. But we also don't want to put them in a position where a grade level might be sitting in the red, and they have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to be able to get it approved to post for a teacher. And then however long it takes to get a teacher. And then we have kids in the red for 6 weeks, potentially, so guide rails and reins without tying their hands and not allowing them to act in an appropriate amount of time to meet the needs of the students.
How detrimental would it be if I asked just on this one stipend for a little time to think about it? Just on this one.
Sure.
Absolutely. So I will,
Not the whole stipend, just that part.
well, and absolutely. I mean, could we consider approving the over ratio stipend, but then not approving the actions that the district will take once we're over ratio? But that would mean teachers are already over ratio right now. So right now we're not paying them for being over ratio. So just so you know, like or do you want to say you can do the over ratio stipend, but if you are going to take action to hire a staff member, you want time to think about it. That could be, right? That could be a part of the motion too. So I will tell you, we do have a class right now, kinder, that is over ratio significantly, and we need to figure out an action. So I know that we're working with that principal right now. So, and kinders, they come in all different levels. So,
One thing that we could possibly do is we are meeting again next Tuesday, and right now it's a work study session, but if we needed to add something on to, do a quick at the beginning, we already were presented, we're just voting on approval or something, we could add that because we will be together next week. So a week from today. So that would not be a huge delay. And maybe we could get some of it done and the rest of it later if we need to. Just
And
wanted to throw that out there.
That's the 10 days, right? Tuesday?
10 days is tomorrow, right? No, what day is 10 days? It is Tuesday. I'm sorry. I'm a week off. Sorry. Feels like it's been a whole month already. Sorry.
You know, and I don't know, because the 10-day drop is a really important period to either collapse or add, you know, and hearing that kinder is affected, like to me is like an immediate need. You know, would you feel more comfortable if like at least get the 10-day drop period, you know, and have a discussion about it as a board, you know, next Tuesday so that they can at least make decisions, you know, if we discuss if they need to add a teacher, like as part of that meeting.
Like what she just said?
Yeah, so they would bring us information on Tuesday
Yes.
about,
If I could just think about it.
Is Tuesday the 10th day? Okay. Will we have our calculations ready on Tuesday or would that be Wednesday? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
at least
So-
a rough estimate. Okay,
Mhm.
I think that's fair.
Yep.
If,
Absolutely.
okay, thank you, everyone, for
problem.
being flexible.
And I could imagine the 10-day drop is going to be where we have the most action. I think as we go throughout the year, it might be a little slower paced and more predictable. So.
Makes sense, thank you.
All right. And then the last stipend for this evening is the classroom coverage stipend. This is a stipend that's been in place at Liberty. The past stipend amount was $25 if a teacher covered during their prep for a guest teacher, $25 for splitting a class for some or all of the day. We'd recommend continuing that practice to compensate our educators that are at school to help assist with covering spots that we don't have a guest teacher for. And then one thing that we do want to note as kind of a criteria for this is, because I looked at some of the splitting stipends and just making sure that we do not split beyond, we're not paying out beyond what we pay for a sub that day anyway, because we've already budgeted for people to take their days, right, is for subs through ESI. So if we're stipending staff, we'd like our principals to honor that this is how much money you have, however you decide. Have someone cover a prep for $25, have these two teachers split kids for 2 periods. But, you know, so it's up to the principal to navigate that, but knowing that it doesn't surpass the amount we would pay if we actually had a sub that day. And then our next steps would be, we have some stipends to bring back to you. One is the IEP writing, which Dr. Avila just mentioned, which I'm learning every day. So we'll bring that staff referral stipend, contract signing bonus stipend, medical waiver stipend, early kinder stipend. And those obviously we have more time to talk about, but we definitely want to get those resolved. And then also I mentioned to you as well that we need to bring back those psychologists and occupational therapists leads. So, and then the next, I'm not going to go through slide 21 and 22 if that's okay. What I tried to do is just capture for you the financial impact, but I believe as I went along, I defined that, but I just wanted to make sure it was very clear to the board and the community of the financial impact of the considerations we're asking you to take tonight. So I'll stand for any additional questions.
Do we have any other questions from board members?
I was just curious if what the rest of the board thought about that PST child find stipend. If you're okay with it as it is, it's just the lowest, you know, potential stipend that we have, and I do think there is significant amount of work there. So I don't know.
Would you want to align it with the lead teachers, like the row above?
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Since you brought it up, I will tell you when I did speak with principals, they also felt that would be appropriate.
To align them.
Mm-hmm.
I would be okay with that as well. And it would seem to make sense. Any other questions or comments?
And just for transparency, it's an additional $2,000 total, like increase. So
Thank you. The only other thing I did want to say, this isn't even really, it's more of a comment and observation. And because you were very forthcoming with the cost of everything and additional costs or, savings, and that the site special education coordinators it's going to cost us more. But I think that is a reflection on how much work they've been doing. When you broke it down into the tiered system and you can see how many students are being serviced at each of the campuses, the fact that they were only making the $1,000 stipend, it seems, almost criminal at this point when you look at it. So it is an increase in cost, but I think it's a smart and a good place to pay out more money, and it serves our students better. So just a comment. And would anybody like to take a stab at a motion?
Motion to approve the third set of stipends for school year 2026, 2027, with the changes that the lead teacher's CST to $800, and then remove the verbiage under the over ratio teacher stipend, remove the verbiage of the potential options at this time. Does that make sense?
Second.
President Schmidt
Yes, Ms. Camerata.
and board members, the motion will read, motion to approve the third set of stipends for school year 2026, 2027 with the changes that the lead teacher CST to $800
Correct.
and remove the verbiage of the over ratio actions at this time.
Correct. Okay, and we have a second. So we can take a vote. Mr. Todd?
Aye.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that passed 4-0. And we can move on to agenda item 6.2, discussion approval of the school potential calendar, blackout day calendar, certified staff work calendar, and administration work calendar for SY 26-27. Dr. Doozy.
Thank you, Madam President, governing board members, community members. As recommended by the board at our last meeting, we were able to survey our staff to add that 13th workday. We provided some options for staff. We also did open-ended if they had another option to consider, but I do have those results here in front of me. We had 184 responses from the field. 41.8% selected August 28th, 16.3% selected October 30th, February 16.3, October 30th. I'm sorry. February 19th was 41.8%. So tonight we're bringing you the recommendation that we select August 28th as our 13th workday that we still need to change to the calendar. So that is our recommendation for you this evening. I will stand to any questions.
Madam President,
Yes, go ahead.
can you give us Dr. Doozy, can you give us the actual number of votes, not a percentage? And did you say two of them had 41.8%?
Yes, sir. Yes, 184 responses. So I can do the math. I just have the percentage chart that was provided to me by Ed Services. So let me see here.
All right. I'm
So
just curious, if we had two at 41.8, then why did we pick one day over another day if we had the same amount?
Sure. Absolutely. I'm happy to answer that for you. When looking at how to best prepare for the school year, our Ed Services team believed an earlier workday would be more valuable to make sure our teachers are prepared. All of our teachers are gathering their assessment data. They're learning our students. And so providing them an extra workday at this beginning of the school year, we felt that would be more advantageous. You can always also argue February could be another opportunity, but that is the justification, is we wanted to have that date now as the teachers are preparing to start the year strong.
Okay, I guess first and foremost, I think it's important that we recognize that a ton of teachers came in on that Friday, I think it was the 31st. Uh, this has been such a kind of a sticky, messy situation late in the year. I would like to propose that we just call this a wash this year and figure out how to make that day count after all, because so many teachers came in, they've got to get in, get ready before the school year starts. Our teachers are doing a bunch, and it just seems like it would be a very easy thing to just take this year as a wash and use that day, because I think a vast majority of the teachers, from what I've heard and seen, came in that day. So I don't know what the board feels about that, but it seems to me like that would be something just be nice with all that's gone on these last couple of months and changes and everything else.
Absolutely. It's the will of the board. It will be an audit finding because we have paid teachers for that day, our staff for that day, and not all of them may have worked that day. So it's up to the will of the board if we want to honor July 31st, but it could be problematic future forward. I do understand what board member Todd is saying, because I mean, as a classroom teacher myself, in my heart still, I understand that being prepared in your classroom, you do want those extra days before kids arrive, which, you know, we did bring that opportunity to the board to keep that date and make it not be a blackout date. So then people could still take the day off if they wanted to, but that wasn't the will of the board at the time. So all we can do tonight is just bring you our best recommendation. We surveyed the staff. We have August 28th and February 19th, or the will of the board for considering July 31st.
So, Madam President, can we just consider the board maybe offering for those teachers that came in, they've got it. For those that didn't, they can either use a sick day or they can fill in the extra day. Or they can come in on one of these days to get their extra day, and that would clear the audit. But for the teachers that came in, so many of them came in to get their classrooms ready, which is important, very important. And I just feel like the audit can go two ways. We could also say we had everybody working for free for a day.
Perhaps.
Because technically, if they were there and it wasn't a work day, they weren't insured. There's nothing there. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that we got set up in a good situation at all. But I think the teachers that came in should be compensated for that time. That can count as their 13th day, and those that didn't, well, they can come in on a day that 41.8% of the teachers think was good.
Ms. Schmidt.
But if they weren't being paid and they weren't there, then we allowed them on campus and they weren't insured. Workman's comp could be an issue. So I think we're in a bad spot. I think we should recognize that day for those that came in. For those that didn't, I understand that, but we can't really give funds to them. We can have a makeup day for them. But I think, or they could use a sick day, I suppose, if they wanted to, or not a sick day, a vacation day. Wouldn't be appropriate to use a sick day. They weren't sick.
Ms. Schmidt.
Go ahead.
While I understand and certainly recognize that a lot of teachers came in, and one of the things that I brought up during that meeting was the idea of giving teachers a choice, right? And having, kind of principals track that and kind of making it a flexible day. But that wasn't the will of the board. That's not how the board voted. So I'm not comfortable like backtracking it and saying, because principals didn't track who came in and who didn't. And certainly, I think we all know that teachers come in on their off days, and we're grateful that they, give that time. Teachers come in on the weekends all the time. So I don't think them being there is an issue, but I'm not comfortable, creating a wash, because that's taxpayer funds. I assumed that when you recommended August 28th, it was to help, prepare staff for the, the beginning of the year and all of those things. Again, just as we kind of ran into the July 31st, right? It's, it's pretty quick, right? And so, my ask of staff would just be maybe to be flexible if there is a ask for an exception for the blackout. But I also recognize how important PD is for our staff, and we want our teachers there, and we're only doing PD most of the time once a month now. So, we do want our teachers there. That is important. But, I just think it's really important that we, once, whatever the board decides tonight, that we send it out very quickly, because I had several teachers reach out to me and say, they took that calendar that was sent to them with their contract. And I went through this time because I just needed to know for myself how many dates changed. And so we are changing, if you count August 28th, 5 different Fridays. And that is a significant amount. And so I just want to recognize that, that is an unfortunate situation that has happened, right? And, just like we have said, like, I don't know what happened. People don't know what happened, but here we are now, right? And we just have to try to move forward. But I certainly want to recognize that certainly staff, made plans and did different things. And we are changing a lot of it, and as kind of Mr. Cicerone has said before, it ultimately that kind of falls on the board, right? We're ultimately the ones that are going to, approve this decision. But again, we want to move forward, right? We need to have PD, and there's, certainly reasons for why, but I'm okay with, it as presented on August 28th.
Madam President, were our teachers under contract on that Friday that so many of them came in?
Yes, they were under contract.
So they were covered by insurance on that day if anything happened?
I would
Because if we
say-
didn't start them give them a new start date, then they came in. They came in prior to the start of the start date of their contract. So if we had somebody injured on that day, were they covered under workman's comp?
I can just clarify. I would have to research the coverage of our insurance for staff outside of work hours. I don't really have a concrete answer. I'll have to research that. I don't have an answer for that. But what I can answer for Board Member Todd is new teachers started on July 20th on their contract, and returning teachers started on July 27th, if that's helpful.
Thank you.
They will definitely list those.
I go ahead and make a motion to approve the school calendar, blackout calendar, certified staff work calendar, and administration work calendar for SY 26-27.
Can we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. Mr. Todd,
No.
Ms. Zimmerman,
Aye.
Mr. Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that passed 3-1. All right, moving on to agenda item 7.1, comments or agenda topic requests. Do we have anything that needs to be requested?
I just kind of have a comment.
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
So going through like a lot of these expense vouchers, I know a lot of this happened for you guys, the new regime, but there's a lot of brought up a couple times about these HR consultant fees. Can you please look into that and see what's going on? I know the HR department is rebuilding, but it's
I will let you know that I've already let both of those vendors know that we are no longer using their services.
perfect.
Great. Any other comments or agenda requests right now? Okay. Then moving on to 8.1, upcoming board meetings. As mentioned earlier, we have a special board meeting next Tuesday, August 18th. That is mostly a working session, unless we need to add something. But it was requested by Dr. Joel that each board member please come prepared with 2 or 3 areas, focus ideas to work on Dr. Doozy's goals for the school year. We will be working on them together collaboratively with Dr. Doozy as well. So that's for next Tuesday. I'll send a follow-up email. And then we have a meeting on Tuesday, September 15th. That is a regular board meeting and a special meeting if we need that. Tuesday, October 6th is a regular board meeting, and Tuesday, November 10th is also a regular board meeting. And with that, we can adjourn the meeting at 8:24 p.m.